With more than 6,000 small and micro-cap companies listed, if you're looking for the next Apple at the earliest stage, then ChannelChek truly is the orchard. The listed companies support ChannelChek, so it's free for you, the potential investor, to gain access to institutional quality research from FINRA licensed analysts, advanced market data, industry reports, news, and a growing catalog of videos and webcasts. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and register for ChannelChek so you're always up to date on what's going on at the small and microcap data place. Welcome to the C-Suite series presented by ChannelChek and Noble Capital Markets. Noble is an SEC-registered, FINRA-licensed broker-dealer and the source of the equity research available on ChannelChek. Today's interview features CoreCivic, NYSE ticker symbol CXW. Noble Senior Research Analyst Joe Gomes interviews CoreCivic President and CEO Damon Hininger. Visit channelchek.com or click the link in the description for Noble's research on CoreCivic, as well as news and advanced market data. And now, here's Joe and Damon.
With us today is Damon Hininger, President and CEO of CoreCivic. Good afternoon, Damon, and thanks for taking the time to sit down with us.
Hey, Joe, good afternoon. Good to see you.
Same here. So a lot has transpired since our interview last July, but before we get into the changed operating environment, for those in the audience unfamiliar with CoreCivic, can you share with them what a diversified government solutions company with a scale and experience needed to solve tough government challenges in cost-effective ways means, and a little bit about this market?
Absolutely, and thank you for that question. Yeah, so CoreCivic has a really proud history, founded in 1983 here in Nashville, Tennessee. And we do really three key things. One, we do what we call CoreCivic Safety, where we own and operate prisons, jail, detention centers. Only in the United States, we don't do anything internationally. And we've got a great track record of providing high quality, cost-effective solutions to federal, state, and local jurisdictions within that market. But also, we've been able to achieve really, really good outcomes, helping individuals in our care maybe achieve higher level of education, maybe a vocation. And I'm like to say in that market, as we think about programs, again, with vocations and academic programs that we do within our facilities, we've helped about 30,000 people in the last 5 years either get their high school diploma or GED, or maybe certified in a vocation like welding, like masonry, but also like computer programming. And it's been great business solution for our government partners who are dealing either with overcrowding within their system or old antiquated facilities, or maybe they're trying to achieve some type of cost savings, or all of the above. So really strong value proposition within that market. And again, we've been doing that business for about 40 years. Two other business lines that we've done more recently, probably in the last 7 or 8 years, one of which is we call CoreCivic Properties. This is a solution where we just really bring our real estate expertise to bear with a jurisdiction who's trying to maybe tackle, again, either overcrowding in the respective system, or maybe trying to modernize their facilities. So, I mean, there, as you know, Joe, I mean, there is, thousands of beds in the United States, prison beds in the United States that are publicly owned and operated that are over 100 years old. So if we can go to a jurisdiction and bring our know-how on not only how to develop, but also how to build and maintain a criminal justice asset like a prison, to help them modernize and maybe close some older antiquated facilities, is a very strong solution for a lot of these jurisdictions. So that's what we call CoreCivic Properties. We've been doing that for about 7 or 8 years, and really have been doing it all over the country, from California to Kansas, Kentucky to Oklahoma. It's a really great solution. And then the final business line that we call CoreCivic Community, we've also been doing that about last 7 or 8 years. That's a business line that typically where we own the real estate and we provide the service, and that's where we're helping individuals in the last 6 to 12 months before they get released. So halfway house or community corrections is another term for these facilities. And so helping them right before that last step back into community, help them to get gainfully employed, reunified with family, maybe have some medical, mental health, and program services there on site. But that's what we call CoreCivic Community. In that business, we have about 30 facilities that we have in that business line, and it's a great solution, especially with this overarching kind of theme you've heard here in the last 10, 15 years with criminal justice reform, these facilities are increasingly become a great solution to help, again, with those individuals in the last steps before they go back to the community, really get ready to get reunified with family and gainfully employed to where they don't come back in the criminal justice system. So at a high level, those are the three business lines: CoreCivic Safety, where we own and operate jails, detention centers, prisons around the country; CoreCivic Property, where simply we just provide the real estate, so we're the landlord and government's the tenant; and then CoreCivic Community, which is, again, community corrections are halfway houses to helping individuals in those last days before they get released in their respective communities. We've been doing that, again, about 40 years. Overarching, all of it touches government. So the government's the tenant or the customer, depending on the business line. And virtually all of it's got a real estate component too.
Thanks for the company overview. So let's dive right into it. New Biden administration almost immediately signs an executive order prohibiting the Department of Justice from renewing contracts with private prison operators. That's the Bureau of Prisons and the US Marshals Service. Can you take each customer separately? Where do we stand today? What percentage of the overall business each accounts for? And what is your best guess how this plays out going forward?
Yeah, good question. So thank you for that. So let me just back up and just say at a high level, again, been doing this for about 40 years. So we have worked with a lot of different administrations during that period of time, both Democrats and Republicans being in the White House. And our overarching view is that if we do a good job, if we make sure we design our facilities and operate them in accordance with all the appropriate standards, either from the government or from national standards like American Correctional Association, and also do that in a cost-effective way, kind of regardless of who's currently in the administration, either the federal level or even at the state level, if you've got maybe change in governors. If we provide a very strong, comprehensive, quality solution along with it being cost effective, we've had great success over the last 40 years to not only develop new business, but also expand existing business within jurisdictions where we do work with them over, say the last 5, 10, 15 years. So going to your question specifically at the federal level, so ICE, let me talk about that one first. That's about 29% of our business based on the last quarter. And actually, I don't know if I ever told you this, Joe, but actually when the company was founded in 1983, INS actually was our very first agreement. So it's our oldest partner. So we know their needs really well, but we also know their needs change, based on kind of the activity they're going on within the United States or maybe on the Southwest border. But we also have had the good experience when you get a new administration and potentially new leadership within Homeland Security and ICE. Policies and solutions that they want may be a little different than the previous administration. So our goal on that business is always to be very flexible, make sure we meet the kind of the needs and direction from the administration, again, what they're trying to accomplish as it relates to maybe residential capacity or detention capacity, make sure we meet all the appropriate standards. And then also, again, be flexible on what the needs are and maybe what the vision is going forward as they deal with some of the really difficult and challenging issues around immigration, again, both within the country and on the Southwest border. So, to your point about this new administration, it's clear based on the interaction that we've had with our customer ICE over the last 60, 90 days. We continue to be a very strong solution for them as they tackle some of these really challenging issues on the Southwest border. So we've seen increased utilization within our facilities, primarily again on the Southwest border, but we've also seen it in other places like in Georgia and also Mississippi, where we've got ICE capacity. So our view, kind of near term and midterm, is that we continue to do a good job, meet all the appropriate standards, being cost effective. We're seeing in the early days with this new administration that we continue to be a very strong solution for some of the challenges they've got on the Southwest border. So we don't see anything changing there. To the Bureau of Prisons and Marshals Service. So Marshal Service is about 24% of our business, and the Bureau of Prisons, primarily on the safety side, we do a little bit of work on the community side. But if you look just on the safety side, that's about 2-3% of our business with the BOP. So let me talk about that one next. As you and I've talked about, Joe, the Bureau of Prisons, their needs have changed pretty dramatically here in the last 7-8 years. From 1980 to 2013, they had 33 years of consecutive inmate growth in their system. But since 2013 to today, they've declined about 70,000 inmates. And so they clearly have indicated to us over the last 7, 8 years that their use of the private sector was going to change. And we knew that was happening even before kind of the election cycles in 16 and even last year of 2020. And I think that just was reaffirmed in some of these kind of comments that were made both in the campaign and ultimately this new administration, that their use of the private sector was going to diminish. And again, we knew that was coming, and we planned accordingly to where in 2010, BOP was about 50% of our revenue. Again, today it's about 2% on the safety side. So we've planned accordingly. It's one facility, which is down in Georgia. So nothing material there. If there is a continued step to kind of pull back the private sector utilization by the BOP, again, that's kind of immaterial, because again, we knew that was coming based on kind of their change in demand and trends that we were seeing in the last 7, 8 years. So to the Marshal Service, as you know, Joe, the United States Marshal Service is in the Department of Justice, was impacted by this executive order. But what we knew very clearly is that we have done a really, really good job in servicing the Marshal Service needs over the last almost 30 years. As you know, they're a law enforcement agency, so they really rely 100% on either private sector like CoreCivic or cities and counties for jail space. And we've over the years continued to provide not only high quality, appropriate facilities that meet all the standards that are cost effective, but we also do all the support services like transportation to federal courts, and also medical runs, or maybe to the federal transportation system moves. So we've done those services in a very, very effective way. But also, I guess, go back to the earlier point, is that they completely 100% rely on other entities, either the private sector or local governments, for capacity. So we're continuing to work with the Marshal Service as they continue to explore not only compliance and direction from the administration, but also as they consider alternatives. Again, we continue to be a very high quality, cost effective solution. And so we've had discussions with the Marshal Service almost on a daily basis, myself included. And as I think every agreement comes up that's under a direct contract, we'll continue to explore what their needs is, kind of jurisdiction by jurisdiction or district by district, and see how we can be a solution going forward. And again, kind of comply with the direction and the vision with the new administration. We've had a couple of near term, as you know, impacted our facility up in Crossroads, which is in Montana. We were able to work with the state of Montana along with the Marshal Service to move populations around. That really became a win-win-win for all jurisdictions. So actually that was a great solution for all involved. And then also here near term, we signed an agreement with Mahoney County to help them be kind of a relief valve, us be a relief valve to them, as they not only have needs potentially within the county, but also with the Marshal Service. So we've got a lot of opportunities, I think, not only either with relationship with the Marshal Service, but also other jurisdictions like Montana, like places in Ohio, where we can work with other jurisdictions to, again, allow the Marshal Service comply what they need to have bed space wise in certain jurisdictions, but also work with either existing or new partners to maybe utilize capacity that's vacated by the Marshal Service. And again, I think Ohio and Montana are indicative, I should say, of our success being able to do those, have those conversations and provide solutions that are, again, kind of a win-win-win.
Interesting. So just to focus on the U.S. Marshals for one second, how, as you mentioned, they rely 100% on outside entities for their beds. So how easy, so to speak, is it if they decided, hey, we want to, we need to not renew a contract, for them to find beds? I mean, it would just doesn't seem intuitive that there's thousands of prison beds just sitting unoccupied in the areas where the U.S. Marshals needs them.
That's correct. So yeah, on any given day, the United States Marshal Service has in their custody, I think, about 65 federal prisoners, and those are in 94 court districts around the country. And as you can appreciate, some districts are bigger than others. And so, think about like Arizona or West Texas or South Texas, those are very large districts. I think, for example, in Arizona, I think on any given day, they could have 35 to 4,000, maybe 4,500 federal prisoners that are actively involved in cases in their court cities like Phoenix and Tucson and Yuma. So it is a very difficult challenge. I think if the Marshal Service has the utilization of capacity, either private sector or even with city or county governments, and they have to go and use another provider, there is no excess capacity in large quantities in many of these districts. So it really requires a conversation that we feel like we've had great success here near term, like I said, with Ohio and with Montana, to say, okay, help us understand what you're trying to accomplish. Maybe there's some other partners too that could help. And like I said, in the case of Montana, we were able to really provide a very successful solution where we basically took population from Montana Department of Corrections that were in local jails. That population now is moving to our facility up in Crossroads, and the Marshal Service that was at our facility now is in that jail that was vacated. And so clearly there's no additional capacity, but I think part of the private sector is we've got to be creative, we've got to be innovative, we've got to have strong relationships with various partners, and kind of roll our sleeves up and work with the Marshal Service and again with some of these other partners that maybe have a vested interest and/or maybe a solution they can provide to the table, and see what we can do. And again, I think what we've done here in the last 60 days with those two jurisdictions shows that we've got a lot of plays in the playbook that we can look at to provide these type of solutions and ultimately help the Marshal Service on meeting their needs in some of these districts.
Post-COVID, or as the COVID restrictions are relaxing, the U.S. court system is now back to or nearly back to normal business. How would you expect this to impact CoreCivics business? Yeah,
it's a great question. So I'd say a couple answers to that. So you think about, and you know this, Joe, but maybe for the benefit of the audience, the Marshal Service are holding individuals from the time they're arrested for a federal crime to the time they are ultimately, if they are convicted and sentenced of that crime, then they're moved over to the Bureau of Prisons. So they're very, very transient population. I haven't heard a recent statistic, but COVID's probably skewed this quite a bit. But think about typically they're in custody of the marshals anywhere from 60 days to maybe 6 months. That's probably a pretty good range on average. And so what's happened, again to your question, is that a lot of courts have stopped kind of in-person hearings and trials. And so a lot of that activity has slowed down a lot of these cases, and in turn that's affected populations where you've got a group of population maybe it's a little higher than historical standards that are waiting for kind of ultimate outcome and adjudication of their case. What's also happening kind of on the back end, so maybe you have someone that kind of was pre-COVID, was near the end, or maybe at the end of their trial, they ultimately, if they were convicted and sentenced of a crime, then they were waiting for that transfer to the BOP. And the BOP for a period of time during COVID had also stopped taking new intakes. So you had kind of a slowdown on the front end and then a slowdown on the back end. What we're seeing right now is that generally the Marshal Service population has been pretty stable over the last 6 months. Again, kind of going back to that 65,000 number I mentioned earlier. And another one that we've seen is what I call these individuals that are again at the end of their court proceedings, again a convicted sentence of a crime. Those individuals that are awaiting transfer to the BOP almost got up to 10,000 nationwide that are waiting for the BOP to take them into a federal prison. We've heard recently that's been kind of almost cut in half, kind of around 6,000 to 7,000, or excuse me, 6,000 to 5,000 now actually are in that category. So the BOP is starting to open up and starting to take some of these transfers, albeit again, the overarching number for the Marshal Service has been pretty stable. So I think that's what it tells us on the front end, is that court activity is starting to pick up a little bit. You're starting to see maybe a little more activity on the front end. So even though you've got maybe some movement on the back end for people going to the BOP, there's still a fair amount of folks that are coming into the federal system, either in their new arrest or maybe they're now being detained as their court case is being heard. So again, overarching has been pretty stable. As we go into the rest of the summer months, into the fall months, and kind of seeing how potentially ICE and immigration activity potentially impacts the Marshal Service, we'll be watching closely. But I think for the near term, it's probably going to be pretty stable.
Now, obviously, in the headlines has been the surge of people crossing the southern border. I think we are on track for the largest number since the early 2000s on an annual basis. Just since March, I think the number of people detained by ICE has increased by over 70%. How is this impacting CoreCivics business? How close is the company to hitting the guaranteed minimum level in its ICE contracts. And, you know, as you mentioned, the US Marshals Service, they outsource 100% of their beds. You know, how much capacity does ICE have to absorb some of these increases without having to go to the private sector?
Yeah, all good questions. So let me tackle the last question first, and that is a little bit of ICE. So yeah, you're right. I mean, ICE is almost like Marshal Service. They pretty much 100% rely either on private sector like us or city and counties for capacity. I think that capacity historically has always been limited, especially to cities and counties, especially on maybe counties and cities in the southwest border. So I think that continues to be a challenge and somewhat of a constraint for ICE. For CoreCivic specifically, just to give you kind of a range of capacity we've provided to ICE over the, say last 24 months. So I think in the summer of 2019, we got close to about 15,000 individuals in our facilities under the jurisdiction of ICE. And as you know, early this year, I think we were just under 3,000. So it gives you kind of a range of not only utilization, but also a sense of capacity we can provide ICE within our system. Going back to the earlier parts of your questions, so we have seen, yeah, you've seen all the numbers like we have, all the activity on southwest border, the encounters, some of the detention numbers, and so we are seeing increased utilization within our facilities. Again, we were just under 3,000 early in February, and then I think we disclosed in our first quarter call that we were around 6,000, so 3,000 up to 6,000. So we have seen increased utilization for sure within our facilities. And right now, I think to your question, a little bit about guarantees, I think we're still about 2,500 under the guarantees within our ICE contracts. So I guess last part of my answer would be is that we're monitoring closely, as you've seen with the Homeland Security and ultimately impacts with ICE, is the Remain in Mexico program and also T-42, which clearly has impacted people being detained on the southwest border. It appears over the summer those things will start to be kind of pulled back a little bit and ultimately have some impact potentially on populations. Has it been as impactful as with unaccompanied minors and families, because there's been some those things typically have not been in place for unaccompanied minors, and then it's been a pretty low percentage of families that have been impacted by either Remain in Mexico or T-42. So we've seen increased utilization at our South Texas facility, as our family facility in Dilley, Texas. So we're well suited. Again, we got to do a good job every day and meet all the appropriate standards. But I think as the administration deals with some of these challenges on the southwest border, and then also maybe pulling back some of the things they put in place around COVID, we stand ready to continue to kind of help them as they deal with some of these challenges in the coming days and weeks as we go through the summer.
Thank you for that, Damon. Now, CoreCivic has won a contract to build prisons in Alabama, but there has been some bumps in the road in raising the necessary funds for the project. And recently, the state governor was quoted as saying she would, quote, explore additional alternative options to fund the construction and maintenance of new prison facilities, end quote. Where does the company stand on this project?
So good question. So let me give you a couple of answers there. One of which is, and you saw this, you kind of noted a little bit in your comment there, but the governor and the commissioner for the Department of Corrections, I mean, they are laser focused on fixing the issues and challenges they've got in the state of Alabama. I mean, I give them a lot of kudos because they withstand a lot of criticism, unfortunately, and I think misplaced, about what they're trying to accomplish. I mean, what they're trying to accomplish in the state of Alabama is to modernize their system, close some really old, antiquated facilities, add the appropriate, square footage for, medical and mental health, but also programs. And as you know, Joe, I mean, they're under severe pressure, not only operationally and fixing things that, in my mind, are the right thing to do, but also a lot of pressure from the Department of Justice, because they've got active litigation, Department of Justice, because of these, challenges and inconvenient conditions and antiquated facilities. So nothing I've seen or heard here in the last, I'd say 30 days has changed their resolve. I mean, they are laser focused to get these things fixed and get some newer modern facilities out of the ground to help close some of these old antiquated facilities. So what I could say at the moment, and we're really obviously following the governor and the Department of Corrections lead on any kind of public comments on this, one is that, I mean, we're right there with them. We're talking to them daily and helping them understand, solutions that we've obviously provided and proposed in the past, but as they kind of continue kind of navigate through the summer months, how we can provide and be part of the solution. So I would just say we've got active conversations, again, talk to them daily, if not multiple times during the day. I've personally talked to the commissioner several times here in the last 30 days, and what we as a company and me personally, and I know for our development team, is that we want to help them. We really want to help them as they deal with this really, really challenging environment. I mean, it means a lot for me personally, just because I started the company as a correctional officer. So I know working in a condition that's maybe not ideal, doesn't have air conditioning, has multiple system failures. It's very hard to not only do your job, but it's hard to recruit and retain employees, and it's very, very difficult environment for the people that are residing there. So the more to come. Again, what I would say is that we're actively talking to Alabama about solutions as we kind of continue to kind of navigate this environment and hopefully help them achieve success on modernizing their system.
Thanks for the update. And kind of a follow-on to that is, and you mentioned it earlier, statistics indicate some 25% of existing prison beds are past their useful life. What are the options to replace these facilities, and how can the private prison industry participate in getting some of these facilities updated and modernized?
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, I tell you what, one thing we've learned about these solutions is that, jurisdictions, I'll go back to Kansas, the solution we did up there a couple of years ago, as you know, Joe, when we were proposing and kind of having back and forth conversations with the state on what we could provide, they actually shared with us articles from 50 years ago within the state saying they have to replace the facility that we were proposing to help them replace. So they knew for half a century they had to replace this prison, and they couldn't get it done. I mean, you kind of say it's all the above. It's politics, it's cost, it's other important capital projects. I mean, all that stuff unfortunately just didn't allow them to get it done. So what we're hearing, and we've heard this again, as we go through Alabama, we're hearing a lot of the jurisdictions, saying we've got the same issue within our state. We've got 1, 2, 3, maybe up to 10 facilities that we need to replace, maybe consolidate, maybe opportunity to modernize. So this solution really continues to resonate with a lot of jurisdictions. And as you know, Joe, we've primarily been talking about kind of state opportunities. But there's almost 3,000 counties in the United States. There's a lot of counties too that really need to modernize their facilities. So we think this solution really, really resonates and provides a path to get something done, to get something executed, versus maybe jurisdictions that knew they needed to do it, tried it, and were unsuccessful maybe multiple times.
Lots of opportunity. Now, speaking of opportunity, CoreCivic has mentioned the opportunity to expand into ancillary services now that it's no longer under the REIT constricts. Can you tell us if there has been any progress here?
A lot of internal analysis. So nothing really to unveil today, but I give you a little flavor of kind of what we're looking at and what we're considering. As you know, REIT rules prohibit us, or did prohibit us, I should say, having real estate where we provide a kind of a mental health or medical service mission. And so that's going to be kind of that is an obvious area that we're looking at, as we think about some of the challenges population have, especially, populations maybe at a state level or at a local level. Is there a more of a, comprehensive medical or mental health solution that we can do within facilities, either existing or new facilities, that maybe we couldn't even think about or consider because of the REIT rules? So I'd say that's one area. Another area that we're kind of doing already, but we're looking to expand, and that is everything around the community. So as you know, we've started several years ago doing electronic monitoring or other types of devices to allow for solutions maybe outside a kind of residential or corrections environment. And then also home confinement has been a very popular solution, especially under COVID, and all the solutions and services and case management around that. So that's kind of a high level what we're looking at. There's many other things that we've got kind of on what I'd say the innovation list that an internal team is reviewing, but at high level, I'd say probably the most notable one, which is again kind of an obvious one that we couldn't do in the past, and that's stuff around medical or mental health.
Now had hoped to sell the remaining non-core real estate portfolio by the end of June. So, how's that progressing? Originally we talked about using those net proceeds for debt reduction. So, how is the debt reduction plan going, and how much does the company anticipate reducing debt in 2021?
Yeah, so here we are, June 21st. We said end of second quarter, so we've only got a few days left, but we still feel good. I feel good. We do feel good that we're going to be able to get this across the finish line. So the properties that we held for sale as of March 31st, we do feel like we're still going to be able to accomplish that by the end of this quarter. Again, I know we only got a few days left, but feel like we've made good progress and we're getting close. And so going back to kind of our overarching kind of goal with the transaction and then also leverage targets, I'll just highlight those. So we do feel with the assets that we started selling back in late last year, and ultimately the ones that we get done at into this quarter, round numbers, we think we'll be able to pay down debt from those transactions of about $150 million. So we feel good about, again, the timing and the amount. And then the final thing I'll just say is that we, again, still laser focus on a leverage target of 2.25 to 2.75. And so those are kind of that's the goalpost that we're aimed towards on kind of total debt reduction. So feel good about the transactions we've done, feel good about getting the final ones done here before the end of the quarter. And then again, that'll be about 150 million that we can put towards our overarching kind of debt reduction, which again, 2.25 to 2.75.
A frequent question raised is access to capital. Now, obviously, you guys have been paying down debt. There still remains substantial debt outstanding, especially with the revolver. Can you give us a little more color on how the company is approaching, access to capital and the debt conundrum?
Yeah, I feel really, really good on the steps we've taken, the decisions we've made here in the last 24 months. So let me go through kind of a recount here, as all this, Joe, but for the benefit of the audience here. So we started in 2019, late 19, talking about different alternatives. We think about some of the debt maturities that we've got coming years. And so I had a very thoughtful, methodical conversation kind of late 19 into early 20 about potentially going back to a C Corp. We'd been there, we'd done that before. We were a C Corp before we converted to a RE 2013. So you kind of know the rest of the story. We put a indication out there in the summer of last year, and then ultimately made the decision to do a C Corp. And so as you know, that allows us then to take the cash flow that we were paying out in the form of a dividend and really focus on the needs of the business, but most notably focus on paying down debt. So I really feel good about the decision. It was the right decision. And again, it was obviously a decision you obviously needed a lot of time and attention, but what obviously gave us comfort is that we had been the C Corp before. I mean, we were a C Corp from, I guess, 2000 and 2013. So we kind of knew from a business perspective and how to manage our operations and how it impacts or not our customers. At least that part of the analysis was pretty easy because we knew it would not be impactful on the business front or on interaction with the customer. So I'll say that gives us a lot of flexibility then as a C Corp. Then we can really kind of deploy our cash appropriately. Again, most notably near term on reducing debt. Secondly, as you know, we had a very successful transaction earlier this year, 450 million in unsecured notes, and so that was allow us to take out the 22s. So we completely have taken those off the table, and we've with that had oversubscribed. As you know, we went initially thinking 250, we got to 450, so we were able to take a big slug out of the 23s on debt. So that's north of 200 million. So we're in great shape. I think the proactive decision on a C Corp conversion, and then also just showing great access to capital earlier this year to, again, where we could take out one tranche and then a big slug of the 23s, just shows that we're being proactive, we're being thoughtful on the cash flow, but also we've got good access to capital.
Great, thanks for that. Now, let's switch gears for a second here and talk a little bit about a topic that's near and dear to your heart, I know. The company's environmental, social, and governance report. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and the progress you're making on that?
Absolutely. So we go back to our REIT years when we were hearing from our large institutional investors about the need to be not only transparent, which we always feel like we are, but also maybe a better window into some of our not only operations but the goals that we have, especially on the programming side. We ran to this opportunity to do this report, and with that, the goals and the vision and mission that we've got in the organization. So we're really excited. As you know, we just released our third ESG report. Again, going back to our REIT years, it was interesting. We were kind of one of the first adapters of doing this type of report. It was interesting. Some of my peers and other publicly traded REITs were not so excited about going to it as we were, but we just thought, for the work we do and working with government, and also knowing that there's a lot of misinformation about who we are and what we do, it really creates a great window into our business. So we've got it posted on our website. Notably, many wonderful things I could point to, but let me just go back to the program side, which I'm really passionate about. In 2014, I made a statement within our company that got a lot of great national press, and that is, we're going to make reentry a day one priority for every employee in this company, from me down to every correctional officer. And then with that, we're going to set concrete goals on helping individuals get their high school diploma, maybe get certified in vocation, maybe help them deal with an addiction. There was many different areas that we wanted to help people that are in our care, which is an awesome responsibility, get better prepared, and once they get released, back in their community and not come back to the criminal justice system. Because as you know, Joe, everybody incarcerated in the United States, 95% of them ultimately are going to come back into our communities. So we see it as not only a tremendous responsibility, but an opportunity to help these individuals, get those skills, get that education, get that vocation, to where they go in their community, they don't come back, because they're 40% less likely to come back in the criminal justice system if they achieve either higher level educational achievement or maybe a vocation. So our ESG reports provides a great window of the progress that we've made on all these fronts. And with that, it's just it makes me proud, period, because it's the right thing to do to help these people that are in our care. Again, it's a tremendous responsibility, but opportunity. But also, it's really something that I'm proud for our employees, because it really allows them then to kind of showcase the core work that they're passionate about, that they do in our facilities every day.
Thank you for joining us for this C-Suite interview presentation brought to you by ChannelChek. Visit our YouTube channel for more interview content, as well as virtual roadshows and conference presentation replays. New content is added regularly, so subscribe below to stay up to date. Visit channelchek.com or click the link in the description to access equity research, news, and advanced market data on this and the 6,000 other small and micro-cap companies listed.